I didn't vote for you. I didn't vote for you. I was busy today.
You know what? I was telling her
Thank you, sir.
Really? Well, I had 2 o'clock.
Gender?
Hello. I'm going way back here.
Even if they're new business.
Over there. I'll come on this side. I don't know where Randy. Do you know where Randy is? Nothing.
We had Aaron. Well, his.
All right, I'm going to sit on the board now.
And they all have paper
We're used to being on that. Who are you?
Some of them. These kids' cars.
Well, you know what? I'm sitting up there with 6 people. All wanting to test tonight. And I'm like, I don't need it.
We're feeling brave this evening. It appears that I have the microphone that's live, like, all the time. Wow, this is exciting. So it appears that we have a quorum, certainly, and it is 6:31, so I'd like to call to order the 20th regular meeting of the Board of Directors of SAB 52, and it is Megan. Fantastic. If Megan could lead us in the pledge. Thank you. So our first order of business would be to act on the minutes of both the district budget vote, May 6, 2021. Any errors or omissions on that? Seeing none, would accept that under general consent. And also the meeting of May 6th. Any errors or omissions on that one either? Seeing none, we'd accept that as well. That brings us to communications.
Thank you, Betsy. I'd like to report the following resignations. Christy Kajanian from Green Central School at the end of this year. She's been a teacher for us for a number of years, and we certainly wish her the best, and we will miss her. Anthony Levitt, Tripp Middle School 8th grade girls soccer coach, and Dawn Gilbert, Levitt Area High School JV girls basketball coach. Betsy, I have a couple other things I'd like to share through communications as well. So the first one is Michelle. So Michelle has been our business manager for 4 years in the district. And Michelle, you have led us through traditional budget development work, virtual budget development work. The Siemens Phase 2 project, which it was great to hear, is completed now. The wastewater treatment plant project, getting that all underway and ready to begin. The school revolving renovation fund grant for the Central School project. You've helped us through multiple sets of teacher, ESP, and AFSCME negotiations. And you have handled over $4 million of federal emergency relief funding grants. Most of that work done in 9 months or less. And that is a huge accomplishment right there. You successfully advocated for the business office to have the staffing it needed in order to meet what we needed as a district, and your timing was impeccable because that happened right before the pandemic began, and all those, it felt like millions of new rules related to HR and personnel. Michelle, you also kept the business office running and performing its critical functions through an entire year plus of difficult times, sometimes remotely, sometimes in person. And every time I have thanked you for that work, your response has been, I have a great team. Thank you for 4 years of great communication, of collaborative work, of laughter along the way. Sometimes it was nervous laughter, but still. And for always looking out for the best interests of our district. We've done some very challenging, some very good work together. So Michelle, you have given your all to this job, and thank you. We all thank you for that. We wish you the very best in your new private industry position, and we will miss you.
Thank you. So Michelle, I would just echo much of what Kim said. I mean, when you think about it, 4 years, it seems like longer and shorter both, and certainly the volume of work is far greater than one would have anticipated in 4 years, and to get us through that process so well, and as Kim said, with your finely tuned sense of the absurd at some moments when we're in the midst of a lot of these things is definitely appreciated, and kept the process moving along as well. You will most assuredly be missed, and we as well wish you the best, and wish you certainly much enjoyment, and perhaps a break or two after the pace of at least the last year or so for sure, and would like to give you these flowers as well, and I'll, oh no, don't worry, I'll walk around and present them to you so I don't drop them, because now that I've said that out loud, I probably will. But thank you again, Michelle, for everything you've done for the district. Thank you. You guys have a pleasure to work with. It seems like we have an extra table at the end here, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Extra
that's
office.
right.
Thank you so much for everything, Michelle.
And then Betsy, I have one more thing I'd like to say tonight, and that is that when I nominated our new, because I've given 3 seconds, Michelle, when I nominated our new business manager for next year, Dean Flanagan, to the board, that process happened pretty quickly, so he was not at the board that evening, but he has come this evening so that we can put a face to his name. This is Dean Flanagan. We're very happy he will be beginning with us on July 1st. As you probably remember, he has a wealth of experience, and he has overseen operations and facilities and transportation, a lot of human resource work, as well as all the business management functions as well. So we are very, very excited to be able to welcome Dean to the district very soon. Dean, would you like to say
Well, thank you very much, and I'll add my kudos to Michelle. Certainly going to be big shoes to fill, keeping the financial stewardship going. Certainly a lot of work to be done in terms of those federal monies. We've got some great projects in the pipeline here as well, so I think you're on a great path, so thank you.
Welcome, Dean, and thanks for being with us here this evening as well. And as Kim said, I feel kind of weird these days when we talk about having a face to go along with. It's like, well, I have eyebrows to go along with. And so, welcome. Yeah, exactly. Someday, at some indeterminate point in the future, we can all see what we actually look like again, which will be fun. But welcome, and we're definitely excited to work through those projects. And as you said, Michelle leaves some pretty big shoes, but we'll try to keep you on your toes as well. So thanks again for joining us. That brings us to adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, we have a few. We are going to remove agenda item 9.2.1. We are going to remove agenda item 9.3. And also remove item 9.9. I would then request that we move agenda item 9.22 to happen before agenda item 9.18.
Are there any objections to moving 9.22 to precede the various executive sessions? If not, we'll consider that change made. And that brings us to committee reports. Finance, Yuri.
We have not met this week.
PTV, oh, that's me. And yet another example of all the work that Michelle does. She encapsulated everything that's outstanding, as well as brought us legal counsel tonight over the course of an hour. So it was pretty action-packed. The first thing on our agenda this evening was to hear in follow-up from Aga with Drummond Woodsum. If you remember, we had an earlier conversation, and I think Finance Committee was contemplating some of the revision, and it's a net energy billing sort of arrangement that we were approached with that would enable the district to enable me to not go through all 2 pages of this, but save on energy, basically, through a contract. That revision would be the party that we'd contract with, and Aga stepped through the various pieces, parts of said contract as she had reviewed it, and has also reviewed over 24 other arrangements. So we would not be the guinea pig in this sort of scenario, which I don't know about anybody else, but I'm okay with not being the guinea pig on some of these arrangements. The high points that she touched on were around both describing what the process is, and it has to do with contracting for a certain percentage of our energy needs, and that the mechanism that is in place is set by the legislature. It's a kind of a matrix that decides what that rate is versus the standard offer rate. So the risks that Aga indicated were likely around the legislature changing net energy billing potentially in this session or a future session, and around whether we had an appropriate amount of energy that we were contracting to purchase. The suggested amount in the contract was 82.5% of our current energy usages. Aga indicated that she's seen arrangements, contracts written for anywhere from, generally speaking, 75 to 85% of historical energy usages. So one of the risks that she had suggested was that if it was too high a percentage and we changed our energy usages, that we would be purchasing more credits than we would necessarily need. Having said that, she also indicated that she felt that there would be an active potential buyer pool if we found ourselves in a scenario whereby we had credits that we were not in need of. This is not, she was also pretty clear that this is not the renewable energy certificates, so we're not magically going green by purchasing the certificates. That's still a transaction that would happen with the owner of this process. That's not us. We're just in an arrangement as far as the net energy billing would be concerned. Aga also has provided specific language on when the board is comfortable with taking a vote on whether we'd like to enter into this agreement or not, what that looks like, all the various statutes that we need to refer to in order to enable the superintendent to enter into this sort of an agreement. It is a 20-year agreement. Michelle also indicated that she would email folks the full contract if board members were interested in looking at that. So we could, as a committee, we felt like this certainly did not seem as risky as perhaps it seemed as the salesperson was kind of given the pitch on this versus legal counsel explaining some of the pieces, parts of it. At the same time, we have the opportunity, we could either take some action on this tonight, or if folks wish to have some time to review the contract at their leisure, there's nothing that says that we have to take action on this tonight. This was more along the lines of Michelle having done a great deal of homework on this project and wanting us to have kind of a wrapped up with a bow sort of thing, so we could make an informed decision either tonight or at our next meeting, depending on what the pleasure of the board is. on that. So we actually have an agenda item that refers to it in our revisions, so we can circle back around on that then and just decide where the board would like to proceed on that. And there was still a full page of stuff after that. So Siemens Phase 2, as Kim indicated, that is done. A final walkthrough has been completed and signed off on, so that's exciting to have that process finished. Wastewater treatment plant, the engineering agreement that I think we reported out on previously has been finalized, and Wright Pierce has shared a revised schedule based on that with a final completion date of November 30th, 2022. And it sounded like Michelle was conveying to us that they wanted to make sure that we're all aware that any of those dates and completion dates and start dates are obviously contingent upon availability of equipment. I think everyone's aware of the fact that the supply chain and so many things is rather distressed occasionally right now, so adds a certain element of uncertainty, but that is continuing along, and with the completion of the engineering agreement, there are no more impediments in the way of that continuing. O2 Prime, if folks remember, that's a project that is funded through ESSER 2 funds, and that will be an additional air quality project in all of our buildings, and that will be underway as of next Wednesday. It will be starting in the high school. All the equipment is in place on that, and our vendor is shooting for an end of June completion date on that. So that'll be another one to check off the list. Tripp Middle School, there is an air quality issue that we have been kind of chasing there, I would say, Michelle, if that's accurate. There are some system upgrades that were made over the course of this year's work that seem to have not addressed it fully, so we're continuing solution work on that, so we'll have updates on that as we go. And in the meantime, fortunately, we're at a time of year where windows are helpful, as we learned in the cafeteria. Windows and window fans are fabulous. I was a little disappointed we did not get to see the boxes, though, that everyone was referring to, or hanging out there someplace. Although if we'd seen them in the cafeteria, that would be another issue, so. True. So the Pine Grove here at the high school, the well is in. Mr. Shaw indicated that the conversations between the irrigation folks and Mr. Euland are proceeding along, and so there'll be tank and pumps, and that will be continuing along. And he did suggest that the beautification could begin just as soon as those components of the projects were finished. Last but not least, Michelle updated us on the playgrounds at the various locations, that as part of those installs that occurred earlier this year, and in order for those playgrounds to be usable, we did need to find some chips for safety around the playgrounds, and those were procured, and the swings were installed, and now all the playgrounds are usable, which I'm sure our folks who are here 4 days a week now are delighted with. So thanks again, Michelle, for updating on all the outstanding projects, and for your stewardship of those projects as we've gone. If anyone has any questions on that laundry list of items that I went through, or if we want, and we'll have the opportunity to talk more about the revision energy project or contract later on in the agenda. If not, we can move on to curriculum policy. Joanne.
We have not met.
Not met. Student representative, we don't have one of those currently. Non-teaching negotiations, AFSCME and ESP. Jessica.
AFSCME met last Tuesday, and the board presented our counter proposal, and that was discussed. And at this point, we have gotten a response from AFSCME, which we will be discussing during our executive meeting today. And I'm not part of the ESP, so I'll let Carlos talk to that.
ESP, we had planned to meet this past Monday, but unforeseen circumstances prevented that from happening. Kim also was able to meet with Judith Lashman, their lead negotiator, to go over the board's counter proposal. And we have an executive proposal next.
Thank you. Administrators report. Building principals. I'll go.
So as we hurdle through springtime here, and we're getting towards the end of May, it sounds strange to say that, but we are, and we're moving quickly towards graduation, which is just a couple weeks away. Met with seniors today, right here in the auditorium. So we had our very first senior class meeting on May 20th, which was very strange to wait till May 20th to have such a meeting, but we did, and talked about graduation events that are upcoming, and prom that is on Saturday. It's been lots of buzz going on around about that. The tent will be installed tomorrow morning, so by tomorrow afternoon we'll have a 40 by 60 tent set up out here in the courtyard, and Buzz Media is ready to be here for the red carpet walk on Saturday evening, and it's going to be quite an ordeal, to say the least. Lots of, as Betsy alluded to, lots of activity going on outside. We do have a family of foxes that have taken up residence just outside of left field fence on the baseball field, and they tend to make an appearance when people are around, and I haven't seen them, but I hear the little one's cute. So he was running around chasing baseballs yesterday afternoon, according to my son, who plays left field and had a good view of it. And generally speaking, there's lots of activity going around outside the building during the day, and everything from book discussions that are happening in the courtyard to Mr. Stockwell, who came in the other day and had his forestry class, and they've been identifying trees out on the trail out back. So lots of good stuff happening outside, taking advantage of the great weather that we're having. And along those same lines, next week we'll have the spring play, and you can see their elaborate set behind you there. Spring play will be happening next week outside. They're going to do it right outside here, and with family and whatnot, kind of in the parking lot, and it's going to be an outside affair, so they're excited about that. And during the day next Thursday, I think, Sarah Dallas-Jadlarski is going to have the modern band performance. They've been practicing some rock songs and modern band for this semester, and they're going to be performing in the courtyard during the day next Thursday. So lots of exciting stuff happening on that front. And I just wanted to remind folks that next Thursday at 2:30 here in the auditorium, we'll be meeting with the trustees for their annual meeting and having the official unveiling of the Elaine Chenard plaque, which is on the wall outside here. It was installed yesterday. It's currently covered with tissue paper until the big unveiling next Thursday. But I get to see it. It's outstanding. And when you do leave tonight, please take note. The lettering above the cases outside here in the lobby, it's great. So really looking forward to unveiling that next Thursday, and all are invited. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. We've got a lot going on at TRIP also. I think those fox were under our shed last spring, and we switched sheds, so they kind of moved. There we go. All righty. A couple things. I wanted to let you know, item 9.6 on the agenda is a TRIP fundraiser. That's being put on by Tony Levitt at his farm, Hazel Hill Orchard. It's his apple blossom brunch. He does that every year, and then the money raised, he automatically donates to the school. But this year, he's asked some students to volunteer to help him out, and since the students are actually involved, that's why you're seeing it as a fundraiser and just not a straight donation. So I guess things are filling up quickly. He's got 3 seatings on this Saturday and Sunday at his orchard, so it's something to look forward to if you're right here in the area. The other thing we have is I have Bree Allard is our drama coach. She's a teacher here at the high school, and so she shared with me that they will be doing their play this tomorrow night, actually. And so she shared with me that under COVID circumstances, including going from rehearsals over Zoom to rehearsals in person just recently, to just getting scripts 2 weeks ago, these kids have been resilient and dedicated to bringing this show to fruition. It's awesome to see students be flexible and hardworking problem solvers. They're going to do a great job performing this quirky little play, and they're having fun doing it. And I love the title of the play. It's everything you ever wanted to know about middle school, but we're too busy being stuffed in a locker to ask. So they were going to do it at the gazebo to have an outside setting, but they learned that the street traffic and the playground can kind of make it difficult to perform there. So it's been moved to the courtyard behind Levitt here, and it will be at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So that's 2 great events for our school. And then the other thing that's going on now is we've been busy planning the 8th grade celebration. May 28th, all 8th graders will be invited to come to the school and have a full day of activity with their classmates. When the students arrive at the school, they will go to their advisor's room. Each advisory is 13 or less, so students will be able to socially distance. We will hold the celebration outside because we do not have space inside large enough to hold the full class. We will hold the celebration in the parking lot under the new school sign. That's where we have the strongest signal, so that we have the strongest Wi-Fi signal. And the celebration will be streamed by Buzz Media and later placed on our Facebook page. I realize that this does not follow the traditional celebration that TRIP holds each year. I am taking the COVID guidelines into account with planning of this event. This 8th grade class is the largest class in the district with a promotional celebration. On the Turner campus alone, TES has 71 6th graders and Levitt has 138 seniors. With 157 8th graders, if each one could bring 4 family members, that would be 628 additional people socially distancing outside. We simply do not have the space, therefore parents will not be able to attend. And this was a very difficult decision to come to, but we really felt concerned for the students who haven't even been able to see their peers this year, and we wanted to do something to get them back together as a group. But we feel by being able to stream it live, at least those parents that do have the opportunity to see it live will see it live, and then we'll also share it with them on Facebook so that they can share it as a family. I understand everyone wants to get back to normal, and I really hope next year we are. But at this time, I need to follow the guidance that is presented and do what is best for the students. So we're working really hard on this, and we really are looking out for the students and helping them have one good, full, fun day together to give them some joy in their last few days at TRIP. And I don't know, do you have any questions for me? Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. At TES, just a few quick updates. We are planning for a field day, which has been exciting to plan for a field day with all of the little details that need to be followed. But the staff's done an amazing job. They've been busy preparing for a safe and socially distanced field day to help our students end the year on a positive note with an increased sense of community and normalcy. We're really looking forward to that. We have we are really excited and looking forward to being able to have this event, considering everything that everyone has happened and been dealing with this year. Our remote assessments, as you know, we're doing our end of the year assessments for everyone. Our remote students have been coming in. TES has worked hard with families of our remote learners to schedule assessments that fit into each family's schedule and address concerns about students returning to the building. We've had a high rate of participation and anticipate our assessments of remote students will be completed by the end of next week. And so it's been really great to see those students too and how much they've grown. It's amazing. Fifth grade, TES has begun their MEA science assessments, and students completed 2 sessions today, and teachers reported that there were no issues and things went really well. Our 6th grade promotion is planned. Our new tent came in, and you might have noticed it beside the gazebo, and we do have far fewer students to plan for that. We are making plans and how that's going to work for families. They've been RSVPing, and families will sit in a row that will be tagged, reserved for their family, and then they'll be distanced that way. So we're hoping that goes really well. We're looking forward to that. And then I wanted to just speak to our Wednesdays that we've had this past Wednesday with staff and the next 2 Wednesdays. And we just wanted to let you know the kinds of things that we're working on as a staff. We're getting ready for next year. And we're looking forward to being able, hopefully, to be 5 days in and excited to be returning. We're doing a lot of work looking at our data and thinking about our learning recovery plans, doing some professional development and organizing that. There's a lot of great energy in the school with teachers getting ready for what that would look like. We have teams coming together and mapping out units and getting assessments ready. Feeling really good about having end of the year data and growth for kids so that we're able to hand to the next year's teachers to really start building individualized learning plans for students. So I feel like teachers are going to be able to lead with their class lists with great information together and a snapshot folder for each of their students to be able to move that planning forward. We have some curriculum teams for our leadership structures changing just a bit, and we're really looking at 2 focus areas along with an additional social emotional focus for students coming back. Because one of the things we have noticed as we come back together for both cohorts is we have some of the social emotional components that we had anticipated but didn't see when we were just at the cohort A and cohort B, but they were really being met, the needs, because of such small class sizes. And I think that, that was a really great thing, I think, transitioning them in. But certainly us all coming back together, some of those things that we expected that are more challenging, and those are things that we're just going to work through together, and we'll have good plans, and we have great thinkers coming together to make those plans, and we'll be able to meet those needs. So certainly we have academic and social emotional needs that our kiddos will need, and we want to be prepared for that. So these 3 Wednesdays are very focused on making sure that we're ready to go in the fall as we welcome our students back. We do have transition plans for our 6th graders to be able to go to the middle school, and we also had I'm thinking of Brooke, but she's Newton, right? It's Mrs. Newton. I only say Brooke. Mrs. Newton came down and spoke with the 6th grade graders and gave a lot of details. They're excited about that. They'll go up as a class and they'll visit there. And then Ryan and I have planned for next week. It's hard to believe that it's next week. In the evening, our 2nd grade families will be invited to come over a 2-hour block. The first part of the alphabet will come for the first hour, and the second part will come, and then Ryan and I will be there just to greet them and have students come in, because we can't do the busing and fit all the students on to come over like a traditional way. And so families will have an opportunity to come in and see the school and ask questions and be able to meet some folks. So we're looking forward to that as well. Any questions? No? Thank you.
Good evening. There's a lot happening at Turner Primary School. We have a lot of events coming up and celebrations, and our staff have been working really hard to plan for next year as well. Next Friday is our beach day, so we're inviting our students to bring a towel, and they're going to eat outside, socially distanced, and they're allowed to wear flip-flops, and we'll have some fun music playing outside for them So we're really excited about our beach day. We're also planning a field day on June 7th, where the students are going to rotate through physical activities outside. I'm sure you all know that TPS, the campus, there's a lot of area for kids to be in, and so we're going to be rotating them through different stations around the building, similar to how we've used a lot of different playground zones. So we've just really reached out and embraced our campus and how much space there is for our students. So we're really excited about that. We're also in the midst of planning Step Up Day, which is an opportunity for the students to meet their teacher for next year. We do have one vacancy in 2nd grade, so there will be a small group of students who, on their report card, it says new teacher. But for the most part, we're really excited about our field day, or our Step Up Day, and that's also going to be on Friday, June 7th in the afternoon. Our students are also participating in assessments similar to other schools, and our teachers are taking a lot of time to analyze the data, to look for lagging skills, to make note of which standards students mastered, which standards students were introduced to, and then which standards students didn't get an opportunity to work with. And they kind of went through each of the standards and color-coded them, and then we're going to have an opportunity on a Wednesday to present that data to the sending grade level so that they can see what skills the students are really strong at, and then what lagging skills they might be coming up with them. So we've been spending a lot of time with that as well, and we're just really excited about the end of the year at Turner Primary School. We actually had our pre-K screening yesterday, and all of our families of our incoming pre-K students, they came in with their child, they met with our school counselor, and then they got to go with the pre-K teacher and do some skills and counting, and then they got to go out on the playground. So it's really exciting. I think we have 63 3-year-olds that are going to be joining our pre-K program so far, and that's a lot for this time of the year, because TPS typically gets a lot more registrations throughout the summertime. So we're really excited about that as well. And then like Kelly mentioned, we're going to have an open house for our 2nd graders to come and tour TES to help with that transition as well. And finally, I just want to thank Mrs. Carver for supporting our Kids Heart Challenge. Our school actually, through this fundraiser, we raised over $2,000, but Mrs. Carver spent a lot of time teaching kids about heart health and having them think about their heart and how that works and what it does to our bodies and how we can become healthier by learning more about our heart health. And the students were able to get little prizes for participating, and they were just really excited about that, and that's something that TPS is really excited about as well. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Carver for that. And does anyone have any questions? So one funny story, so I'm sure you know that kids eat in our cafeteria in our gym, and we open the doors sometimes for air circulation, and we had a little bird fly in that got to have lunch with our students. And so I'm sure you can imagine like 65 6-year-olds as the bird flies back and forth, and they're like, whoa, look at that. So it was very exciting at TPS. Luckily, after lunch, when it was quiet, the bird flew back out and was able to enjoy nature again. But I'm sure a lot of 2nd grade families got a lot of interesting conversation at the dinner that night from that fun visitor we had at school. Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of GCS, I'd like to report we are proceeding to the end of our school year undaunted. As you're aware, we were able to arrange and accommodate the return of all of our students in grades 4, 5, and 6. Our teachers and staff planned and prepared together. That transition happened back on April 26th, which it's less than a month, but it seems like it was like 3 months ago, something like that. And there are, again, no longer separate cohorts on the grades, but rather they're full, complete classrooms with CDC and DOE guidance in place. You may remember we made arrangements for our students on a number of areas, including around serving breakfast. We had to stagger some bus drop-offs. We have more than one bus run in a couple of cases, and we adjusted the subsequent schedules. So we're pleased to say that that process has gone as smoothly as we anticipated. Please note we didn't say smoothly. We said as smoothly as we anticipated. We anticipated some hiccups. We had them, but we were able to respond and adjust very quickly on the fly. We're constantly in communication with food service, how many kids do we have, what can we do, how do we change things, tweaking schedules to squeeze out every bit of an instructional time that we can. The older kids, because they're already familiar with the expectations and how to do school, it took a lot less time to kind of get them back into that flow, which was again part of our reasoning for looking at the upper grades. Very much like you've heard earlier, particularly with the weather this week, we've had staff that have really taken advantage of getting our kids outside, whether it's to eat or it's an activity or whatever it happens to be. Just absolutely glorious, and it's so great to look outside and see our kids just out there, you know, just so doggone happy. It doesn't matter what they're doing, they're just so happy. We are wrapping up our NWEAs this week, hoping to pull, we will be pulling a lot of informational data from that. Grade 5, as is mentioned previously, has started their MEA Science, and that's a new computer format for the very first time. No more paper books, thank you, that's great. We have a couple of field days coming up at Green Central School also. Typically, Mr. Jordan, Derek Jordan, our PE teacher, may occasionally look for some help, but during our meeting yesterday, the answer was, yeah, we're all set. So he's taken the whole thing on with guidance in place, and we're ready to roll. And of course, Green Central School is having a grade 6 recognition celebration on June 2nd. Any specific details, parents can look for flyers. You can certainly call us at Green Central. And as has been mentioned, I can't believe it at this time, yeah, we're already looking at the next school year. Our goal at Green Central is to welcome back 100% of our kids in person 5 days a week. That's what we're shooting for. Planning's already started around the logistics. With that, we're looking at information to see what our capacity looks like. We know that it's a moving target with those parameters, but we figured we're trying right now with all of our stricter parameters in place, so if things loosen up, that'll make our job easier, and who doesn't like that? Scheduling, we're looking at incorporating morning meeting, which is an essential part of supporting students' social emotional needs, and of course the classroom climate as a whole. We're looking at multiple bus runs, breakfast waves, and as well as expanding our specials to their normal length of time. We're looking at ways to mitigate the negative impact of how those pieces gel or don't gel. So please stay tuned for that. Another legitimate concern we continue to look at is learning loss and accompanying, more importantly, learning recovery. So particularly during the global pandemic, you know, we've been through this, providing students with everything they need, that regular instructional opportunity has been a challenge, and it's been a challenge for staff, students, and families. Everybody has stepped up, and regardless of that, even with everybody's best effort, we have to acknowledge that there are going to be some gaps, there's going to be some work to do. So we're looking at both instructional or academic and social emotional awareness, and we've already begun an action plan for next year to work to address that. We're going to be working on those social emotional functions, developing, improving, and strengthening practices within the classroom, embedding professional development. We have a lot of experts in our building. We did a gallery walk yesterday that answered 6 questions, and we gave folks Post-its, and just, you know, how would you deal with X? And at the end, it was absolutely stunning, just the level of and the depth of ideas and the amount of information that was there. And I was, you know, it was very overwhelming to kind of go, yeah, look at the capacity that we have in our building. So now we want to build in those opportunities to be able to share with one another. So that's increasing that professional collaboration. And then finally, we want to incorporate, we're looking at a way to incorporate a specific system for staff to use to accurately analyze the learning gaps, come up with additional learning opportunities, and then address those specific skills, and then more importantly, monitor that student progress at the end. So we do have a lot going on at Green right now, and as we continue our planning, we'll be happy to keep the board updated and on our progress and our next steps. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. So I like to go last because I'm always taking notes going, oh yeah, we're doing that too. So a lot of things that people already shared we're doing over at Leeds as well. And since people were sharing about all the wildlife around, I was making a note, yep, ticks, Mayflies today. We're trying to sit at the picnic table, have a meeting this afternoon, and there was mayflies everywhere. And then I was out at recess, and I was trying to stand in the shade, and I looked up above me and said, oh yeah, that's the tree with all those brown-tailed moth caterpillars in it. So unfortunately, it's insects that we have over at Leeds right now that we've been seeing. So yeah, it's making me itch just thinking about it. Okay, so our Wednesdays have been very similar to the other elementary schools. Next year, we're looking for getting our kids back into our gym and cafetorium, which is always a challenge when you've got to change the gym over into a cafeteria and then get it back to a gym midday. We've always done 2 lunches since I've been there anyway, and that already takes enough of the day, but we believe we're going to need to do 3 lunches, so trying to figure out the logistics around that. And the recesses was always, we'd have the whole school doing lunch and recess at lunch, and we'd do half an hour of one and then flip-flop, so it always worked out great. Basically, we just did lunch and recess and it was done and we went back to work. Now it's going to be spread out much differently. So working on the schedule is very challenging for this next year. We haven't quite figured it out yet, but I have some brilliant minds working on it, and I believe we can do it. The other priority I was told them is to make sure that each PLC, because we don't have grade levels, really we have 1.5 of each class in each grade, so it's like 1st and 2nd grade, 3rd and 4th grade, 5th and 6th grade make a PLC, and then they need to have a schedule that matches so that they can flex their children among them for literacy and possibly for math, because we're looking at, you know, the learning recovery plan for our students as well, and trying to figure out how we're going to meet all the wide variety of needs that they're going to come back to us with. So class list is always challenging to make sure that we meet all the needs and use all our staff to the best ability. And so we're working on all those sort of things. And I'm really looking forward to, I love data, so I'm really looking forward to the NWEA scores and the Teachers College Reading Assessments to be all entered into the spreadsheet that we keep, so that over Memorial Day weekend I can look at it, because the day after we get back, we're going to have the consultant, Carrie Thurston, come in and work with each of the grade levels or PLCs in order to figure out how we're going to meet all those needs in literacy for all our kids. And we'll have the very fresh data from NWEAs and Teachers College Reading Assessments available for that. So it's like, makes my skin tingle to think about data analysis. Boy. All right. So we do have some fun things going on. We're still keeping our Fun Fridays going. Those were planned back before we went back to 4 days a week. They were every Tuesday and every Friday, so we just went to every Friday. We've been doing things like Silly Sock Day, and we had a Leeds Day, where black and gold or Leeds, things that said Leeds on them. We had a Pajama Day, you know, the normal kind of things. This Friday, tomorrow, is for the first time ever, we're having Happy Pig Day. This was suggested by my school counselor. If anybody's familiar with the book, Happy Pig Day by Mo Willems, it's about Piggy and Gerald and their friendship. And so we're gonna wear pink and celebrate our friendships, and we're gonna have bacon pizza for lunch, and some classes made little piggy nests. So it's gonna be very interesting. It's super cute and very different, and it'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. Next week we'll have USA Day, where we'll wear red, white, and blue. And then on the last Friday, we're going to have a favorite book day, where you bring in your favorite, or talk about your favorite book of all time. So lots of fun doing those sort of things. Let me see. I have so many notes here as I scribbled them down. So 6th grade is always the big deal, and that's been mentioned several times. Brooke Newton did come to all of our schools and talk to our kids, so in some cases she's sort of alleviated some fears, and in some cases she made some kids a little anxious. So luckily we're able to have a step-up day. It's not going to look like it has in the past, it's going to be abbreviated, but at least they do get to bus over to Tripp Middle School, meet some of the staff, hear a little bit about what it's going to be like, and walk through the building and come back to Leeds. So that will help a little bit with kind of hopefully calming their nerves while they wait for September 1st to come, when their first day of middle school. We're also working on a 6th grade celebration. It's going to look much different than in prior years. It's going to be outdoors, weather permitting, and we're going to limit it just to immediate family. So that will look a lot different, but it's still much improved over last year when we could do nothing. So we're doing the best we can as well with that. Nobody's mentioned Title I Family Night. Next Thursday, we have a virtual Title I Family Night. And we are gonna have Mr. Drew and his animals too come on Zoom. And we're sending home 2 books about insects, believe it or not, so Leeds kids are gonna love that. And and we're gonna send home a snack that can be made into looking like some kind of an insect. I don't know what the details are on that, but it looks like fun. So we're looking on Pinterest and all the different things you can do with fruits and veggies and different things to make insect treats. So lots of fun while we're learning and encouraging kids to learn. So I believe that's it. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. It sounds like all the schools remain extremely busy, which is a constant for sure. Great to hear about the planning that's going on for this next year as well. I'll turn it over to Kim for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Betsy. Maine Department of Education recently put out new updated guidance for schools, and included in that guidance is that the 3-foot distancing requirement will be moving to a recommendation only as long as you are doing the pool testing. So I had met with our nurses actually multiple times earlier this year when the pool testing first came out and people were discussing it. It is extremely labor intensive. So we had concerns about it back then. At this point, however, if that means that we would be able to eliminate that 3-foot distancing in classrooms, that would help ensure that all of our schools could have all of our students back in starting next fall. So I met with our nurses again, and we are all gathering information about what exactly will have to be in place to make this happen. At our next board meeting on June 10th, I will be asking the board to approve our reopening of schools for next fall, and it will include that we may be using pool testing. And I say may because we don't know what changes might occur between now and the beginning of school next year. In any case, we are concerned about how labor intensive it is, but we are all willing to do absolutely everything necessary to keep everyone healthy and to get all of our students back into in-person instruction. Now, switching over to, as per policy DN, which is the disposal of materials, I need to report on the disposal of materials at Reed Central School. That includes a classroom set of basal reading texts from 1962, approximately 3 classroom sets of social studies texts from 2000. Some things may have changed since then. Approximately 6 classroom sets of basal reading texts and some accompanying materials from 2001, and approximately 6 classroom sets of science texts from 2002. And then we have a transparency and duplicating book for Xerox duplicating machine and overhead projector use, and that's from 1967. So, just letting everyone know, we'll be disposing of those materials. At this point, we are nearing the end of week 4. If we think back to before April vacation, we had several board meetings where we talked about trying to get more students back in person after April vacation. And there's a lot of discussion about that, and certainly some divided opinions about whether that should happen. One of the concerns was that we only had 6 weeks remaining in school. But we also felt that we have been aware that some students have really struggled with the remote learning, and that any additional time we could provide for those students would be highly beneficial. So we came after April vacation. Our principals had planned so thoroughly with their staffs that the hiccups were really few. I mean, they were few. I always thought, okay, on paper this sounds like it can work. We'll find out when there are actual human beings following these plans. They've done such a good job that those plans have worked in implementation with students here. So now here we are, almost 4 weeks after bringing most students back, and that's gone really quickly, by the way, and we're thrilled about it. We have had we had Tripp Middle School ran out of water, so that was a day we had to close. And we had one situation where we had not enough staff for one day in schools. But that's it. Other than that, we have kids back, they're getting additional time, they're getting to see their classmates, their teachers are getting to be right there to help them. So it's a positive experience. A lot of change, and I think very demanding for our teachers and staff as well as our administrators, but very well worth it at the same time. So I want to just make sure that I thank our administrators, and I thank our teachers and staff, and I thank our transportation department and our drivers, because almost every day, I'm looking at Michelle, almost every day, we are short drivers, and we're trying to, I say we, but really it's the transportation department, and Msad in particular, trying to reroute and make patches, and they're doing it to make sure that we can continue to provide transportation. So I greatly appreciate that. I want to thank our parents for their support and for those who continue to transport their own children, because you know we still have the distancing requirement on the buses. So if we didn't have a great number of parents transporting their own children, we would not be able to get all our children to school, but it's working in partnership. Thank you to food service again. They will change their practices in an instant and on a dime to make sure all children are being fed, and that has been happening for over a year at this point. Also to our custodians and maintenance professionals, because they continue to keep our facilities clean and running smoothly. And then to our central office staff as well. Those functions continue to happen day in, day out, even when we were remote. So everybody has really worked so extremely hard to do what is best for students. We've also had this opportunity to look at our plans and decide, okay, how do these plans inform what we're going to do next year? Because our goal is all students in 5 days a week next year. So that part is also helping us as we get a jump on planning for next fall. I'd like to say congratulations to Maria Jaffoon, nurse at TPS, Casey Smith, nurse at TES, Michelle Lenfest, nurse at TMS, Krista Murray, nurse at the high school, Paula Aldridge at Green, and Christina Cloutier at Leeds, because they are all nurses of the year. So the decision was made that if you were a school nurse during this pandemic, you deserve to have the title of Nurse of the Year. So congratulations to our stellar nurses. They do deserve to be Nurses of the Year, and that's wonderful. Today is the budget validation referendum that's happening now, so if you see me jump up to take a phone call, it is related to that. I'm hoping to have perhaps information before we close the board meeting this evening, but I'll keep a surprise toward the end. And I appreciate our clerks and their work and making sure that they call me with that information as well.
Thank you, Kim. And I think the board would certainly echo your thanks extended to everyone who's kept working at pretty unanticipated sort of pace and complexity this year, and continuing to make it work. So thanks again for all of that good work, and always interesting to hear about the various wildlife in our facilities as well. So, or near our facilities, not in our facilities. I'm not suggesting there are wildlife in our facilities. Be careful with that. But thank you to everyone who continues the great work. That brings us to public comment. Do we have any public wishing to comment? If we do not, that would bring us to old business, which we don't have any of. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for the list, and that would be Carlos.
Second.
And a second from Richard. All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Brings us to new business. And 9.1, presentation by Christina Howe with R.H.R. Smith on the fiscal year 20 audit. And Michelle, I believe, has handed out printed copies of the presentation that we'll be hearing this evening as well. So we can follow along on our own. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Christina. I've been doing the audit, I think, for the past either 2 or 3 years at this point. Usually we're on site for about a week, looking, at the balance sheet, profit and loss, testing different things, and then at the end of the day, we issue an opinion. And the RSU received an unmodified opinion, which means that we believe the financial statements are fairly reported in all material respects. And additionally, this year we tested the food service program, and there were no compliance findings with that. I think you all know he does a really great job with that program. And the other thing this year was that it was almost all remote. So at big thank you to the staff at RSU. 52 because they did a tremendous amount of scanning, and we definitely appreciated that. So we're going to start with the first page, which is the balance sheet. In the financial statements, this would be Statement C. And it just gives you a snapshot of where you guys were at June 30th. And you'll see it has the general fund, your major funds, the other governmental funds, and those other governmental funds are just the special revenues, so all the grant funding sort of flows through those funds. There's the assets, liabilities, and fund balances, and then down towards the very bottom, under fund balances, you'll see your unassigned amount. That's usually where people have a lot of curiosity. And for this presentation, we're just focusing primarily on the general fund. So we have the next page, which has a 3-year comparison of the assets. You'll see that the cash has increased quite a bit over the past 3 years, and that was really because you guys have been building up that accrued summer salary reserve. You put a lot of effort into that the past few years. You'll see with the other asset types, there were some fluctuations, but there was nothing really spectacular there, and everything just seemed pretty reasonable. On our next page, we have the 3-year look back of the general fund liabilities. So really what jumps out is that, big jump in the accrued expenses and payroll. And really what that was is because you guys had been building that reserve for the summer salaries, in FY20, you were able to actually book that reserve. So really what this is looking at is just really moving that reserve from your equity line up to a liability account. And on the next slide, you'll see, or the next page, you're going to see where that offset was. There wasn't really, for the liabilities, anything out of the ordinary in the accounts payable either. So we have the next page, which is your non-spendable and assigned fund balances. So you'll see that the FY20 amount dropped down, and as discussed, that was part of that accrued summer salary. It's just that shift in how it's showing up now on your balance sheet. You had non-spendable fund balance at the end of the year. You also had assigned fund balance. The assigned fund balance was mostly made up of the budget amount of use of unassigned in your current year budget. And then you also have a capital repair reserve that's also assigned funds at the end of the year. And on the next page, we have the unassigned fund balance. There's been an increase of 5.6% over the past 3 years. Currently, you're in excess of that state statute, but I do know the 3% of your overall budget is really where they're saying that your unassigned should be. I know that you've been using unassigned fund balance in your budget, this current year. I know you have a plan for this upcoming year as well. And I think last year we also discussed, really developing some plans on how to maybe develop some capital reserves, and that will help to reduce that unassigned amount and bring you back into what's allowed under the state statute. On the next page, we have the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. And in the financial statements, this is statement 8. Overall, well, first let's see. So you have a capital repair reserve, and there was a large project out of that. I think it was paving this past year. And then you just have your grant activity that's gone through the other governmental funds. And then down at the bottom, you'll see the changes in fund balances. And overall, there was an increase of about 24% in your fund balances in total. On the next page, we just have a pie chart of the general fund revenues, with state and local support making up the largest revenue sources. And on our next page, it's the general fund expenditures with regular instruction and special ed as the largest expenditures within the RSU. And then on our final page here, it's just a comparison schedule of revenues and expenditures. And you'll see, as a percentage of budget, there weren't really any swings in how you're really using those funds or spending them. Revenues decreased less than 1%, and expenses increased less than 1%. So those are the slides or the presentation. There were some other talking points too. There was a management letter that was issued this year. We noticed with our test of controls that the purchase orders weren't being used consistently for all the transactions that we tested. With student activity accounts, we noticed that some deposits are missing source documentation, and that the deposits weren't always done in a consistent time frame. Usually we're looking to see that deposits are being made, cash on hand to getting to the bank in 10 days. And then for student activities, the cash disbursements also weren't always following the student activity guidelines that you have for the proper approval channels. And like I said before, that there were no compliance findings for your single audit this year. And then finally, I'm just going to jump on what everybody else has said, which is that Michelle has done a great job. It's been a pleasure working with you, and you did, I think you've gotten them in a really great spot.
Questions regarding the presentation on the audit? And I think Michelle has indicated that she'll have, if anyone's suffering from insomnia or wishes to digest a little bit more detail, we'll have the printed copies of those available for folks.
I can email them as well. Somebody can prefer that. Everyone prefers that. How about if I email them and I'll send them with Kim next time and you can grab them.
Excellent. Thanks, Michelle. Any questions regarding the audit findings? If not, thanks very much, and we'll look forward to a positive set of reports next time as well. Thanks again.
Thank you.
That brings us to instructional nominations. Kim.
So Green Central Schools Interview Committee is very pleased to recommend Rebecca Massey for the position of classroom teacher at Green Central School. Rebecca has her bachelor's degree in early childhood education from the University of Maine in Farmington and a master's degree in curriculum and teaching literacy specialist program from Teachers College at Columbia University. And she is, of course, fully certified. She comes to our district from Auburn, where she's worked as a classroom teacher since 2015. References described her as being highly collaborative, committed, student-centered, and someone who is literally, quote, this is a quote, literally magic in the classroom. So Green Central School is very pleased to nominate Rebecca Massey. And I would say, Doug, that in my second interview with Rebecca, it was fascinating to hear her talk about her work with picture books and building conceptual understanding. I know that she has some high success with student stamina for kindergarten students, both reading and writing. I think she's going to be a lovely addition to the Green Central School team. The Green Central School Committee is also pleased to recommend Casey Tallarico for the position of classroom teacher at Green Central School. Ms. Tallarico earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of Maine in Farmington. And this would be for pending certification. We believe she's about to get it, but she has to go through the process of the DOA first. So this will be pending certification. She completed her student teaching at Spruce Mountain Elementary School and has also worked as a long-term sub. She is a Google for Education Level 1 certified person, which is going to be helpful. And she's been described by references as a powerhouse who is thoughtful and committed, collaborative, and personable with a strong work ethic. So Green is very excited to nominate her. In my second interview with Casey, I thoroughly enjoyed talking about her experiences when she took over her fourth grade classroom there at Spruce Mountain and what she's looking forward to in terms of collaboration with her teams there. Again, I think that she'll be a wonderful addition to the team.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Carlos and Richard, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Brings us to item 9.4, and this would be approval of donation to Green Central School from Circle K.
Second.
Carlos and Richard again. Any discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Item 9.5, approval of donation to Green Central School from Heidi Vero on behalf of Bill and Marion Vero.
Second.
Carlos and Richard. Discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Item 9.6, approval of fundraiser for Tripp Middle School to raise monies for Tripp Middle School Tiger Takeout and local food banks.
Second.
Carlos and Richard. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. 9.7, approval of fundraiser for Levitt Area High School to raise monies for the Greater Androscoggin Humane Society.
Second.
Carlos and Richard, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. And item 9.8, to authorize the superintendent of schools to offer contracts and hire during the summer.
So moved. Second.
And Richard and Carlos switch things up a little bit there. Discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. That brings us to item 9.10, and that is to act on the recommendation of the superintendent for administrator contract extensions.
So moved. Second.
Carlos and Richard. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. 9.11 is to report the completion of the probationary period for the following employees. Brian Landry, Maintenance Worker 1, 4/10/21. Kara Hurling Murphy, TPS, Special Ed ASP at Tech 3, 4/10/21. Woodrow Gruber, LAHS, Special Ed at Tech 3, 4/27/21. Paula Pratt, GCS at Tech 3, Intervention, 5/17/21. Item 9.12, discussion of Governor Mills' proposed Part 2 budget for the FY 22-23 biennium for the state to pay 55% of the cost of pre-K to 12 education. And I'm going to turn that over to Kim.
So this information came out on May 12th. The proposal by the governor would have to be supported by the legislature, so we don't know where that will go yet. We are just starting to learn what this could potentially mean for our district if it did happen. And I have a conference tomorrow that I plan to find out a little bit more about this, and we'll be bringing more information back to the board once I know more of myself. Just a reminder, Betsy, that we have in the past included warrant articles that talk about unanticipated subsidy. We really did not anticipate additional unanticipated subsidy for this round. So once I learn more, I'll bring that back on June 10th.
Thank you. So we'll stay tuned on that one for a little bit more detail than just the fun headlines, which is always exciting. So thanks for the update on that, and we'll eagerly await additional information. Item 9.13, deletion of revised policy ILD, MSAD 52, student surveys and marketing information.
So moved. Second.
Carlos and Richard, discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Item 9.14, first reading and acceptance of policy ILD, educational research, student submission to surveys, analyses, or evaluations.
So moved. Second.
Carlos and Richard, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Item 9.15, first reading and acceptance of revised policy ECB, MSAD 52, pest management in school facilities and on school grounds, and review of exhibit ECBE, notice of planned pesticide application and deletion of regulation ECBR, MSA 52 pest management notification.
So moved. Second.
Carlos and Richard, discussion on this one? Just a quick, Teresa, yes.
I feel like this is supposed to be the first and second reading, because it's pest management and we do not want to be left without a policy.
Is there any objection from the gentleman who made the motion and the second?
No. No.
No. Quick question regarding the policy. Is this simply reflective of a statute change, or is this a change in practice?
This is not a change in practice. This is a decision by the Curriculum and Policy Committee to do some revision, specifically around the way the notification takes place.
But the practices are not
Practices are not
changing. Thank you. Other discussion on this one? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 9.16, deletion of revised policy GCQD, acceptance of resignation by the superintendent.
So moved. Second.
Carlos and Richard. Discussion on this one. Yuri.
What's the purpose of removing this one?
It's not a required policy, it's just really a job that the superintendent does, and I think our committee has worked to review the policies and keep in place the ones that are required, and then some of them, I think you might remember, like signing checks was another policy we had. We're just trying to streamline.
So not a change in practice.
It's not a change in practice, no.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 9.17, nomination of facilities/transportation director. Kim.
Yes. So the search committee recommends Ricky Emery for the position of Facilities and Transportation Director. That would be effective July 1st, 2021, and that would be pending Maine DOE CHRC approval, because he would be coming here from out of state, so we have to make sure he's able to get his Maine CRHC approval. Mr. Emery has experience as a transportation director and also as an operations assistant, and with his experience using bus routing software, supervising transportation staff, and communication with parents and staff, he will be a welcome addition to the district.
We have a motion for this one?
Second.
Carlos, Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, and we will look forward to meeting Mr. Emery as well in person. That brings us to, as we adjusted, item 9.22, and that is approval of revision energy. And I had referred to this in the PTB committee report out. So either Kim or Michelle, would you like to speak to this one and fix whatever I didn't accurately convey the first time?
Sure. So, do you want me to go off, or would you?
Yeah, we need to
I need to go off. I think that's it's good for you.
If nothing else, because you will miss it, so when you don't have the opportunity
It'll
to
make
use.
your heart health better.
So at a prior PTB meeting, we had Finance Committee, we had a presentation from Revision Energy, and they talked to us about net energy billing credits that the district could get by basically joining the solar farm that with other districts or other businesses, and they would offer us credits against our CMP bill. It's kind of a new thing, so everybody was a little bit hesitant, like too good to be true. What is this? And I've done some work with Aga Dixon from Drummond Woods, in which Betsy referenced. I had her come to PTB tonight. She also has reviewed contracts for approximately 24 different school districts that have entered into agreement with them. The presentation that we had tonight talked about, because we heard the sales pitch side, so we wanted to make sure that we were just hearing, that we wanted to know if there were any risks or anything like that. And the risks that Aga Dixon from Drummond Woodsum discussed with us tonight would be that there's legislation that's in the works to change the program to possibly either attach fees that would reduce the amount of the credits, or to get rid of the credits completely. So the real risk would be that the contract could become not as beneficial to the district as it would be if we, if it continued on for 20 years with these credits. I don't have the numbers in front of me, I have them there, but there was a pretty hefty savings to the district if we were to sign on. I can grab those if you want me to. What am I forgetting? They did say that that there is legislation in the works. And so she did feel as though if the district felt as though this is something that they would like to do, that sooner rather than later, because there's a possibility that if you sign something now that you may be grandfathered, and that any offsetting fees or anything like that may not be assessed. She did say, probably not within the next couple of weeks, the district should be all set, but probably not to wait a couple of months because that is in the works. And I have provided Betsy, and I will provide the entire board with the net energy contract. And I did bring it to PTB just because this is my last meeting and I wanted to tell them every single thing that's outstanding, so.
Thanks, Michelle. So at this point, board members could choose to either authorize the superintendent to enter into this agreement, or folks could take the opportunity to, Michelle's going to send out the contract, so if you felt like you wanted to review the contract in more detail, that's certainly acceptable as well, and we could look to discuss again and take action at our next meeting, which I think is June 10th. Yes, June 10th. Richard.
Two questions. The lady from Drummond and Woodson, did she recommend that we do this?
She does not, I don't think she's in a position as a lawyer to recommend or not recommend. She wanted to make sure that we were aware of the risks that were out there, which really are not anything that would be harmful to the district, other than the possibility of, if we were to overestimate our usage, then our savings would be less. If the legislature were to change, then our savings may be less. If they take the credits away completely, then our savings would be nothing. I didn't get the feeling, and I don't think any of us did, that there was any financial harm that could come of it. It basically would be negligible savings or no savings.
My other question is, do we have any idea on the timeline for the legislature to take action?
She did say that it's in the works, and she expects that it will happen quite quickly. So I did speak to her, and I did have her speak to the committee tonight and convey, what timeline that they were feeling like, and she did say that, if the district were to wait a couple of weeks, it probably would not be an issue. But if we're thinking that you would like to move forward, then probably not a couple of months, so fairly quickly. And that would give you the possibility of being grandfathered. I mean, the legislature can come back and say that we're not going to grandfather anything. But there's that possibility that they may. And that's an arbitrary date, like nobody knows what that date is.
Yuri.
Just to make sure that I understand, if legislation was to change and you could no longer purchase credits, we wouldn't be stuck buying the credits anymore. There's an out of the contract, we'd just be back where we are now.
So from what I understood, it's not that we would be buying credits, it's that they would provide credits on our usage. So the credits would either be reduced or there wouldn't be any. there would be no cost to the district. There would be no financial cost to the district that would be harmful, is how I understood it.
Right, so we specifically asked that in the PTV meeting when we had the attorney present on the line, and she affirmed that there was not that sort of, well, okay, we're committed to spending X thousands of dollars on this, and for some reason we're not able to, or if something happens to not make that possible. She also described the contract as buyer-friendly, so, I mean, while as an attorney, she certainly wouldn't, as Michelle said, be advocating one thing or another, but I think that seemed indicative of comfort level with the contract and the process that it describes. That was, I think, comforting to committee members anyways. Jessica?
And so I just wanted to add to what Michelle was saying. The attorney did say that although they don't have a timeline for the legislation, they've already discussed it, and so it's likely in the next couple of weeks that it'll be moving forward. So the deal that's on the table now may not be as favorable, I think are the words that she used, in the next couple of weeks. So she also said the sooner we have a signed contract, that date would be more favorable for us. Did I reflect that accurately? Yeah.
Yuri?
I would make a motion that the district enter into the agreement with Vision Energy.
Second.
So we have a motion from Yuri and a second from Carlos, and I actually have, and I can, just for the sake of making sure that everybody understands exactly what we're up to here, the motion that Drummond Woodsum had crafted. Like I said, I'll read it. If I can hold it far enough away from my face so I can actually, no, it's fine. My arms are just right, as it turns out. I move that the vote entitled Vote to Authorize the Purchase of Net Energy Billing Credits be adopted in form presented to this meeting. And then further reads, Maine School Administrative District Number 52, vote to authorize the purchase of net energy billing credits, whereas, as I said, legal ease here, pursuant to 35 AMRS something in the Maine Public Utilities Commission rules enacted thereunder, including without limitation 65-407 CMR Chapter 313, a non-residential utility customer, such as a school administrative unit with a financial interest in a solar. The reading is going well. Electric energy generation facility, solar facility, may participate in net energy billing and thereby receive for electricity delivered on the customer's behalf to the electric grid from the solar facility monetary credits in an amount equal to a tariff rate established by the Maine Public Utilities Commission, tariff rate, which may be used to reduce the customer's utility bill, net energy billing. So that describes the mechanism a little bit if folks were interested in that. Whereas Maine School Administrative District Number 52, the district recognizing the speculative nature of purchasing electric energy from a solar facility and associated net energy billing credits on a long-term basis, and understanding the variables that can affect electricity costs, the tariff rate, and the monetary value of net energy billing credits, including the risk of electricity rate fluctuations, increases or decreases to the output of the solar facility, and changes to the district's electricity costs and needs, nonetheless desires to enter into a long-term agreement to purchase a percentage of electric energy generated by a solar facility and the associated net energy billing credits in order to achieve anticipated long-term electric energy cost savings arising from its participation in net energy billing. Now therefore the school board of the district hereby votes as follows, that under and pursuant to the provisions of 20 AMRS // 1001 and 1052, the superintendent of schools, the superintendent of the district is authorized to execute and deliver a solar power purchase and net energy billing credits agreement to Revision Energy, its nominee or its investment partner, hereby known as the seller, in the name and on behalf of the district to purchase a percentage of the electric energy generated by one or more solar facilities and the associated net energy billing credits in a quantity equivalent to not more than the district's historical annual electricity expenditures at a purchase price equal to 82.5% of the tariff rate for a term of 20 years on such terms not inconsistent herewith as the superintendent may approve the agreement. That the superintendent is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the district such other contracts, documents, and certificates as may, in the superintendent's judgment, be necessary or convenient to effect the transactions authorized by this vote and qualify the district to participate in net energy billing, including without limitation any documents required to establish net energy billing pursuant to 35 AMRS squiggly 3209B and Chapter 313 of the Maine Public Utility Commission's rules, any amendments and consents to collateral assignment of the agreement, and any amendments to the district's existing electricity supply agreement. That if the superintendent or any other officer or official of the district is for any reason unavailable to, as applicable, approve, execute, or attest to the agreement, net energy billing documents, amendments, or consents to collateral assignment of the agreement, amendments to electricity supply agreements, or any related documents, the person acting in any such capacity, whether as interim, successor, assistant, deputy, or otherwise, is authorized to act for such officer or official with the same force and effect as if such officer or official had performed such act. And last but not least, that an attested copy of this vote be filed with the minutes of the meeting, and there is a spot for folks to sign. So discussion?
I couldn't hear you. Can you read it again?
I would love to, but this time I might actually have Yuri hang on to it over there so I can read it a little more clearly.
I just like the squiggly squiggly.
Yeah, I'm sure that has a name, but I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Any questions on either the motion, the contract, or the process? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? One opposed? And thanks, Michelle, for bringing this to us with this much detail. Excellent. So we'll make sure I will circulate this so folks have the ability to sign as well, to make sure that we get that part of the process done as well. That leaves us with agenda items that are executive sessions regarding negotiations for both Tri-Town Education Support Staff, ESP, and for APSME. Unless there are any other items of business that we need to take up, or we have audience in place here, any other items we need to take up? If not, I would entertain a motion for 9.18, and that is for ESP negotiations.
Second.
Carlos and Richard, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you, and thank you folks